want to go into something because when I say these words of optional behavior, I think sometimes it can kind of like go over your head. You're like, what do you mean by optional behavior? And the simplest form that I can say is optional behavior is allowing yourself to negotiate something that you said was important to you, right? And so we can look at the level of something of what's important to us by the level in which we make a commitment to it, right? And so one of the things that I have been fascinated with the study of is how do people become committed to something? And so with that, I found that if I delete optional behavior, I can become committed. Okay. And so I have 5 things that I did in 2025 to delete optional behavior that I have extended and scaled for 2026 in multiple areas of my life after seeing that it worked. And I want to give those 5 tips to you. So stay with me on this live. I'm going to give you 5 tips, but I'm not just going to give you 5 tips for your personal life. After I give you those 5 tips for your personal life, I want to give you 5 tips that you can use to help delete optional behavior with your clients. This is going to be really exciting. So tip number 1, I decided once, not daily. So I decided once and I removed the daily debate. Okay, so here's how it goes. In 2025, when I decided that I was not going to drink for 90 days, I decided once. I am a person who does not drink. And I had a timeline date that on March 30th of 2025, I could have my first drink because that was the 90 days. That was a commitment I made to myself. I had a time frame for it. I knew what that looked like, clearly knew what that looked like, and that's really important. But I decided once, not daily. So if the opportunity to drink came and presented itself, it was a clear no, and it was an easy no, and I didn't have to negotiate with myself. It just was what it is. And I'll give you an example. I've extended that same 90-day goal. I do that actually every year right before my anniversary. And you guys might find this a little funny, but when we go to get married, before we get married, oftentimes people will dedicate a long period of time to getting in their best shape, work out, eat well, whatever. They want to look their best on their wedding day. And so that's kind of been my thing recently in the last few years is I'm preparing for my wedding day because March the 30th is my anniversary. So take that for what you will. Maybe you will join me in on that. But I prepare for 90 days for my anniversary or for my wedding day. And so it's a really strong commitment for me. I want to look my best. I want to feel my best on my anniversary date. So that's where this 90-day goal of not drinking came from. Okay. And a lot of other goals. But I decided once that that was my goal, and that's who I became. Right. And so here in 2026, same goal, 90 days, no drinking. And my husband has a bar in our house and he is a tequila connoisseur. And, he got a new tequila and he's like, oh, you got to smell this. It's so fresh and crisp. And I smell it. I'm like, oh, it smells great. He goes, do you want a little sip? The answer is no. No. I said to him, no, I don't drink. And he goes, yeah, you're right. We don't drink. And so once you commit to something, it's very easy for other people to say, oh, she's committed to that. She doesn't do that thing. And then they can help support you in that. So decide once, not daily. Don't allow that mental load where you're debating with yourself each day. Okay. So I stopped deciding daily and I decided once. Okay. That's really important behavior. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, I put commitments on my calendar first. If it's not scheduled, it's not a commitment. I told you guys in another live that I did, if you were to show me your calendar, I would know what you're committed to in your life, right? If your calendar is full of consultations, then I know you're committed to consultations and you're not committed to figuring out a way to do it better, right? Empty your calendar, right? I can tell you that you're the doer in the business, not the visionary, right? So I can look at your calendar really clearly and see what your commitments are. Your commitments need to be on your calendar, whether that's personal commitments, business commitments, it doesn't matter. It needs to be on your calendar. It needs to be on the calendar. Everybody else can see. They know that's blocked out. So for instance, in 2025, right, my goal of not drinking for 90 days on my calendar, it gave me the date of when I was allowed to have that drink. And that was on my anniversary night, right? And so that was important. But then also on that calendar, you guys know, a lot of you followed my journey and you can see my ribbons back here. But I had committed to 1 5K each month. And so I booked those 5Ks. They're on my calendar. It was a non-negotiable. I booked them, I paid for them. It's on my calendar. right? And so we're doing this stuff, and that's why I closed my business down in the end of 2025, always the last couple weeks of December, so that I can focus on filling up my calendar with the things that I want to be committed to, what's important to me. My things that are important to me need to show up first on my calendar. My business things that are important to my business need to show up first on my business count on my calendar. Everything needs to be there before it happens. So oftentimes you'll hear a lot of your gurus out there that are motivational speakers and stuff say, plan your year before your year, plan your month before your month, plan your week before your week. Why do we say that? We say that because that shows what you're committed to. It keeps you on track. It keeps you focused. It keeps you towards the goal, right? And so tip number 2 is put it on your calendar, commit to it. So again, in 2026, one of the things that was really important to me was the 90-day no alcohol. I also am still continuing my 5K a month, right? So actually I ended up doing all of the 12 months last year, plus in December is when I actually started it in 2024. So I got 13 months of ribbons up here, and I have a new goal this year of 5K every month, but to end at a new record speed on running, right? And so those are on my calendar already. The other thing, and I was like, okay, this works. Commitment works. Having this deleting optional behavior works. And so these 5 tips I'm giving you work. So you got 3 more I'm going to give you that's really going to solidify this for you. But one of the things that happened as I'm looking at 2026 is I said, okay, if it works, what other areas in my life need my commitment? And I found that to be financial, right? I found that to be relationship with my spouse. And so on our calendar, the first day of every month, it's a day of we're closed. We are just working on our goals. We have created the goal sheet. We know what we're going to do each year, or excuse me, all year long, each month, each week. And then at the end of every month, we're going to sit down and go through each of those tabs in the spreadsheet that we created. And we're going to see how we did. Why? Because it's going to keep us focused. It's going to keep us committed to the big why. Why are we doing this in the first place, which is really important for you to know. But it's also going to keep us on track, right? Because we're going to be constantly looking at this. Again, commitments, put on your calendar, you're creating a commitment that helps delete that optional behavior. Okay. Tip number 3, I deleted vague language. I removed phrases like I'll try and I'll see. And when I hear myself say words like I'll try, I'll see, I'll try my best, I analyze that language and realize that oftentimes when I use those words, I actually mean it's not really important to me, but I know it's important to you. So I'm going to try to do it, but I'm not going to break my neck to do it. I'm not going to necessarily commit to do it. I'm just going to try. If I find the time, I'm going to try. And I don't mean to say it like that in terms of like it's not important to me when I say those words, but I realize that those words signify lack of commitment, right? And so when I go back to the 90 days of no drinking, the words I used was I do not drink. I'm a person who doesn't drink. I'm a person who runs 5K a month. I'm a person who fill in the blank, right? So vague language can actually jeopardize your ability to have a commitment. It shows that you don't have a commitment. It gives you an out. So optional behavior is having an out. It's being able to negotiate something. So again, a commitment, you don't negotiate. A commitment doesn't have an out. You kind of burn the boats and it's over and this is where you're at, right? Again, vague language creates that optional behavior. So we want to delete vague language and replace that with some very specific language. Like I am a person who, and fill in the blank. I do this, fill in the blank. Okay. All right. Tip number 4, I built structure instead of relying on willpower. Willpower is not reliable at all. It's built off of emotion, and women especially, we all have this, but women especially, our emotions change all month long. Happy, sad, mad, whatever, irritated, whatever, right? With our hormone fluctuations that we have on a monthly basis. So why would we ever consider that we should rely on willpower if willpower is an emotional thing and our emotions go all kinds of ways all month long, right? So instead, we should be building structure because structure is reliable. So again, we go back to things being on the calendar. right? We had a structured way of doing that. We knew we have a spreadsheet we're going to look at, and I'm talking about the goal for me and my husband and our business goals and our personal goals. There's a spreadsheet. We have our metrics that we're looking at for each month. We have the months that we're going to fill in, right? We have it all structured out. We have it on our calendar, right? We have a plan and a system in place of how that day is going to go when we take that day off. There is a structure to it. Structure is really important when you're looking to delete optional behavior. Optional behavior is not structured, right? Optional behavior is like, I'll try to go to the gym sometime today, right? I'll try to make that appointment. I'll try to figure out the finances for the business. I'll try, and there's no, this is the set time and date that we do it. Here's who's involved in this. Like, it's not put in stone or in a structured format that this is how we do things. So structure is really important to deleting optional behavior when you're trying to reach these goals and stay committed. Tip number 5, I added accountability to what mattered most. Accountability actually turns intention into execution. And so kind of going back to the thing with my husband and I, when we're talking about accountability, he's my accountability partner. I'm his accountability partner. We know what the goals are. We wrote them down together. We planned them together, both our personal and our business goals. We both know what we're trying to work towards, and some of it we're working towards on our own, but we're accountable to each other on these things. We know our big why. We know how to support and help each other because we took the time to structure it. We took the time to sit down and structure it. We took the time to sit down and say, this is what we want in our lives, and to actually plan for those things. So now accountability partner can come in and support you on that because we're really, really clear about what the intention is, right? And so accountability turns intention into execution. This is really important for everyone. Now, I did say in my last live, like when you have an accountability partner, it is important that you decide very carefully who that person is. There are accountability partners and there are people who want to pressure and push, okay, or deflate you. And so you have to be really careful about who that person is. But accountability person is not someone who's saying, oh, you screwed up, they're actually there to support you. If you fall down, they're picking you back up, right? And so that's really important that you understand the difference between someone who might beat you up and say, oh, you said you were going to not drink for 90 days and look at you, you drank, right? Accountability partner would be something like, hey, you made a commitment to yourself. This is why you made the commitment. This is very important to you. You had that drink, but that's okay. We can get right back on, right? Let's start over, right? And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about having an accountability partner. But it's really important to have accountability partner for the things that matter. I had people say, well, Allie, you're a financial coach, so why do you have a financial coach? I have a financial coach for my accountability. I'm not like anybody. I'm not different than anybody else. I'll spend money when I shouldn't spend money. I'll take risks that I shouldn't take. And so I have a financial coach to help me make better decisions, help me keep accountable to the goals I said I was going to make for my financial life in 2026. I hope that makes sense. So, or for instance, I'm a personal trainer. For years, I had a personal trainer. People always laughed at me and said, why do you have a personal trainer? And I would say to them, like, you can make your own plan. You got good discipline. You got this, you got that. Yeah, I got good discipline because I have accountability, right? And so my personal trainer, wasn't that my personal trainer knew more than I knew, but my personal trainer knew how to encourage and support me as my accountability partner, right? So don't be afraid to have these people in your lives, even if you are one of those people. It might be the best decision you ever made. All right, so those are your 5 tips on how to delete optional behavior.